People imagine cowboys handling rifles like museum pieces. Clean grips, perfect stance, slow, dramatic aim. That image comes from movies, not from the trail. On the real frontier, a rifle wasn't a symbol. It was a tool. And like any tool, it was used however the moment demanded. Most days it wasn't even fired. It was leaned on, dragged through mud, jammed into dirt, and abused in ways no armorer would ever recommend. Cowboys didn't care how it looked. They cared whether it worked when things went wrong fast. And the methods they relied on weren't pretty enough for film, which is why most of them disappeared from popular history. These weren't tricks taught in saloons or shooting galleries. They were habits built by exhaustion, danger, and long miles where mistakes meant injury or death. What follows are the real rifle methods cowboys actually used to survive. Not heroic, not cinematic, just practical. Number 10, firing from the dirt and whatever cover existed. Frontier gunfights didn't look like duels. The moment a shot cracked, men dropped. Cowboys hit the ground instinctively, not because they were trained soldiers, but because standing upright was an invitation to get killed. Accounts from ranch hands, scouts, and Texas Rangers all describe the same thing. The fight started, and bodies went low immediately. Men fired from their stomachs, from one knee, from behind wagon wheels, fence rails, water troughs, barn corners, even from under wagons themselves. Rifles were braced against elbows, saddles, rocks, or anything solid enough to steady the barrel. Accuracy mattered more than posture. There was no clean form. There was just dirt, smoke, and whatever cover you could reach. Movies avoid this because it looks chaotic. But the people who survived real frontier gunfights weren't posing. They were scrambling, bracing, and firing from the ground because that was the only way to stay alive long enough to fire again. Number 9, bracing the rifle on anything available. One of the biggest myths about the Old West is the image of cowboys firing perfect offhand shots in the open. In reality, that almost never happened. Frontier shooters rested their rifles whenever they could. Saddle horns, fence posts, wagon rails, tree limbs, rocks. Even a rolled-up coat or a hat if nothing else was available. Buffalo hunters lived by this rule. Ammunition was expensive, and shots were long. A wasted round meant lost money or lost meat. Frontier journals repeat the same lesson over and over. You didn't fire freehand unless you absolutely had to. A steady rifle mattered more than speed. The real marksmen of the West weren't flashy. They were deliberate. They understood that even a slight wobble could mean a missed shot, and on the frontier, missed shots weren't just embarrassing, they were dangerous. Number 8, carrying rifles partially unloaded for safety. Hollywood loves showing rifles fully chambered and ready at all times. On the frontier, that was reckless. Rough terrain, long rides, and constant vibration made accidental discharges a serious threat. Cowboys knew this, and they adjusted accordingly. Rifles were often carried with an empty chamber, the hammer resting at half-cock or one round deliberately left out. Texas Rangers, cavalrymen, and ranch hands wrote about this repeatedly. A sudden jolt on a rocky ridge could jar a trigger or slip a hammer. One accidental shot could kill a horse, break a leg, or leave a man stranded miles from help. Readiness mattered, but restraint mattered more. A rifle that fired when it shouldn't was more dangerous than useful. The safest rifle was one that stayed silent until the exact moment it was needed. Number 7, saving every piece of spent brass. Ammunition wasn't endless on the frontier. In remote towns, it could be unavailable for weeks or months. Cowboys, scouts, and hunters treated empty cartridges like currency. Every piece of brass mattered. Spent casings were tucked into pockets or saddlebags because they could be reloaded back at camp using simple hand tools. Frontier journals mention this constantly, especially among ranch hands and small-town lawmen. Losing brass meant losing future shots. Movies love showing shells flying everywhere. Real cowboys bent down and picked them up, even in bad conditions. Waste wasn't an option when resupply was uncertain, and survival depended on what you already had. Number 6, using the rifle as a walking stick and support. Most days, a rifle wasn't fired at all. It was leaned on, used to climb rocky cuts, steady a rider crossing uneven ground, test footing after hours in the saddle. Trail diaries describe rifles being used like crutches long before they were used as weapons. Loose rock, steep grades, deep mud, and exhaustion made balance a daily challenge. The rifle was often the strongest tool a cowboy owned, tough enough to take weight without snapping. It didn't look impressive, which is why movies ignore it, But on real cattle drives, the rifle spent far more time supporting men than shooting anything. Number 5. Testing water and mud before stepping in. Cowboys didn't trust creeks or mud banks. A hidden drop or soft bottom could swallow a horse and rider in seconds. Before stepping in, they dipped the rifle barrel first. Checking depth, firmness, whether the ground would hold. Frontier journals talk about this habit constantly. One bad crossing could cripple a drive or kill livestock. The rifle was the only tool long enough, strong enough, and expendable enough to probe danger safely. It wasn't cautious behavior, it was experience. Cowboys learned quickly that guessing terrain was how men drowned, horses died, and herds scattered. A simple barrel dip could prevent disaster. Number 4. Finger-loaded speed rounds. Movies love showing cowboys digging dramatically into cartridge belts or fumbling in pockets while danger closes in. Real frontier shooters didn't reload that way if they could avoid it. Experienced cowboys, especially buffalo hunters and scouts, kept spare cartridges tucked between their fingers, ready to feed straight into the chamber the moment the rifle opened. Frontier photographs and hunting accounts show this repeatedly. 2 or 3 rounds pinched between the fingers of the offhand, positioned so they could slide directly into the action without looking down. It wasn't elegant, it wasn't comfortable, but it was fast. When shooting wolves around a herd, finishing wounded buffalo, or dealing with rustlers on the move, seconds mattered. Reaching into a pocket wasted time. Dropping a cartridge in the dirt could cost you the shot entirely. The fastest reloaders weren't showmen. They were prepared before the rifle ever went empty. Hollywood ignores this method because it looks awkward and subtle on camera. But on the frontier, efficiency beats style every time. Number 3. Hip firing at extreme close range. Hip firing didn't look the way movies portray it. It wasn't a flashy gunslinger trick. It was a last resort survival response. Cowboys fired from the hip only when danger was already on top of them. Frontier journals and Texas Ranger reports describe the same scenarios again and again. A wolf breaking from cover, a rattlesnake striking near the boots, a rustler bursting through a fence line. At that distance, there was no time to shoulder the rifle or line up sights. The rifle came up from the hip and fired in one motion. Accuracy at distance didn't matter. Stopping power did. A heavy rifle fired at close range hit hard enough to end the threat immediately. This kind of shooting wasn't practiced at ranges or taught formally. It was instinct born from necessity. It looks chaotic on film, so movies avoid it. But on the frontier, speed mattered more than form. Number 2, using the rifle as a club and all-purpose tool. When rifles weren't firing, they were swinging. A cowboy's rifle wasn't just a firearm. It was a club, a hammer, and a blunt force problem solver. Frontier diaries, ranger reports, and even court records describe rifle stocks being used to break up fights, knock sense into drunk trail hands, and drive off animals at close range. Hardwood stocks were built to survive recoil and rough riding. That made them perfect for smashing ice for horses, driving stakes, knocking loose wagon pins, or delivering a decisive blow when things got too close for shooting. In saloons and camps, rifle stocks cracked skulls more often than bullets flew. It wasn't elegant, it was effective. Cowboys didn't separate tools by category. If it was in your hands and strong enough, you used it. Hollywood avoids this because it's brutal and unromantic. But on the frontier, a rifle that couldn't swing was just half a tool. Number 1, treating the rifle as whatever the moment required. The biggest truth movies never show is this. Cowboys didn't see rifles as weapons first. They saw them as solutions. One day it was a walking stick, the next a probe, then a signal flag, then a brace, then a club, and only sometimes a gun. Frontier life demanded adaptability. The rifle was the most durable object a cowboy owned. It went everywhere. It took abuse. It filled gaps when no other tool existed. That mindset shaped how rifles were carried, used, and trusted. The men who survived the West weren't romantics. They were pragmatists. They didn't care how a rifle looked or how it fit a story. They cared whether it worked when exhaustion, fear, and distance stacked against them. That's the real difference between Hollywood's West and the real one. Movies show rifles as symbols. Cowboys use them as lifelines. The Old West wasn't polished, it wasn't clean, and it wasn't cinematic. Cowboys didn't pose with their rifles. They leaned on them, dragged them through dirt, and trusted them only when they had to. These weren't tricks meant to look impressive. They were habits that kept people alive when help was days away and mistakes were permanent. If you want more of the real Old West, not the movie version, You're in the right place. This is Forged and Forgotten, where we break down frontier history the way it actually happened. If this changed how you see cowboy gunfights, hit like, share it with someone who loves Western history, and subscribe so you don't miss what's coming next. There's a lot more truth left buried out there.